Every year in April, we celebrate Autism Awareness Month. And if you're watching this video, you or someone you love has an autism diagnosis, and like many people I've served over my career, you don't know what to do. This video series is for you. Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel where we endeavor to educate, equip, and encourage anyone who's raising a child with a developmental disability or behavioral concern. I'm Dr. Nate Noble. I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician and clinical geneticist, and I'm making these videos to help you skip the line. There are 19 million children in America waiting for evaluations, and there's less than 800 people who do the work of developmental pediatrician. I'm making these videos so we can get you this information faster. If anything in this video is useful to you, like and subscribe so that we can continue to get this information into more hands, like 19 million sets of hands. Today represents the third in a 5-part series on autism and the things that you must do right away after you've received a diagnosis. There are certain things that must be done immediately in order to ensure your child gains access to the necessary therapies and services in a timely manner. If you haven't watched the other videos that I've shot, I'm gonna link them above. Please go watch those where we talk about early intervention services, we talk about private therapies and services, and today we're talking about waiver supports. Waiver supports is one of the most important conversations I have with families because it represents access to long-term services within the community. Now, when I say waiver services, you first have to understand that whatever state you live in may have a different iteration of waiver services. In Iowa, we have several waiver services. A waiver is a program offered through the state that waives the income requirement often necessary to obtain access to Medicaid insurance. If you're watching this video, you're thinking, Noble, I got good insurance. Why I need Medicaid insurance? Well, okay, I'm not trying to be mean, okay? If you have good insurance, what I want you to first understand is that there's no such thing as good insurance, okay? Insurance carriers are great. I'm sure they're wonderful people. I've met with them. I've had very seasoned and salty conversations with them on the phone where they tell me that as a subspecialist, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, that was a low blow. That was a low blow. I want to take that back. I'm really sorry. But I've had several conversations with these people, and look, there are good people in insurance companies, and your employer, whoever you get your insurance through, they did the best they could to get you the best they did the best they could to get you the best they could. But oftentimes there's gaps in your services that you don't see until you have a diagnosis or you have an issue that requires additional therapies and services. So the first and foremost, the reason why I want waiver supports for people, because it gives them access to secondary insurance through the state. And this is insurance that doesn't pick up everything, doesn't pay for every single need that's out there, but it does pick up the scraps that fall off the table of what's not covered by your primary insurance carrier. Example, it's not uncommon for an insurance carrier to say, so you need some speech therapy because you have, a speech language difficulty in the context of an autism diagnosis. And we're going to give you some speech therapy because we're great people. We're fantastic people. We're the best people, okay? We're going to give you 26 speech therapy sessions a year because that's how awesome your insurance company is. Look, I'm not a mathematician, okay? I'm barely a doctor. I'm not a mathematician. What I can tell you is that there are not 26 weeks in a year. There are 52 weeks in a year. So if they give you 26 speech therapy sessions a year, that means that they're giving you roughly half of what you need. Access to therapies, like speech therapy as an example, typically needs to occur once to twice a week to get the most out of the intervention. So access to Medicaid as a secondary payer can often cover the additional speech therapy supports needed that your primary insurance carrier won't cover. Okay, so waiver supports are important first and foremost because they give access to secondary insurance, which is Medicaid. Other reasons why waiver supports are so important is because they give you access to other things. So think about it like a gift basket that comes to your house, and in that gift basket there's some of that straw stuff that's just a big waste of time, and all that really thin packing paper that again is just a fire hazard and a waste of time. You pull that stuff out, and in the gift box from your state in the form of a waiver is inside there a gold, beautiful, shiny emblem that says Medicaid. Okay, we're gonna take that out, we're gonna put it over here. Thanks, state. I love that. Thanks. I'm glad I pay taxes. Whatever. But there's some other stuff in that box of goodies from the state, and it depends on what kind of waiver you have received. Now, this is where it gets even more sticky, okay? Because in different states, waivers have different names. They have different service lines. They have different reasons or ways to acquire them or to qualify for them. One of the most common waivers that we utilize in my clinic is the intellectual disability waiver. Now, what I tell families is, listen, I think your child is smart. Okay, that's not what's up for debate to me, okay? It's not that I don't think your child's smart, I just think that insurance companies are dumb, right? So it's not really that I need to know your child's IQ. I need to provide an IQ score that will allow the state to determine if your child qualifies for an intellectual disability waiver. And it's a hard, fast cutoff. In the state of Iowa, it's 70. If you have a full scale IQ below 70, you would qualify for an intellectual disability waiver. Now, as you know, there are different levels to intellectual disability or cognitive impairment: mild, moderate, severe, and profound. It doesn't, for the purposes of this video, it doesn't matter the level of the intellectual disability or cognitive impairment. It doesn't matter. All that matters is, are you below the cutoff? Because if you're below the cutoff, your ticket's been punched and you are now qualified for the intellectual disability waiver, which comes in a box on your doorstep with all these goodies inside of it. Now, waivers like the intellectual disability waiver come with more than just access to Medicaid. They come with other things like supported community living options, respite care. Sometimes you can gain access to community dollars that you could use almost like flex dollars to spend on things that you most need within the community, like a ramp for your home or security systems for your home, or sometimes you can get other security or safety measures put in place using those dollars. Those dollars and those services are not available to you if you don't have a waiver, and you're not going to get an intellectual disability waiver without the diagnosis of intellectual disability. Caveat: who does that? Who does that? Well, okay, so I want the intellectual disability waiver. I want to go do the stuff to see who does that. Well, a licensed psychologist is the one who does the testing to determine if your child qualifies for an intellectual disability diagnosis. A physician, a healthcare provider, a psychiatrist, a developmental pediatrician, your family practice doctor, they're wonderful people, but in general, these individuals are not qualified to administer IQ tests that would derive an IQ or cognitive score. Only licensed psychologists can do this. So it adds a level of complexity to this, because if you see me in my clinic, I'm going to talk to you about waiver services, and you're going to be kind of overwhelmed, and you're like, why are we talking about insurance? Like, what are you, an insurance guy now? Is it the Aflac commercial? Like, what are we doing here, okay? And I'm telling you this because I care about the long-term prognosis and care coordination as your child ages. Your child needs a waiver, and with that waiver comes several things which we've discussed. And in that conversation, I will make a referral to a psychologist. A psychologist, okay? Not because I need to know if the diagnosis of autism was right or wrong, or not because I need to plumb the depths of their executive functioning or working memory skill set. I'm not interested in that often. What I am interested in is in a full-scale IQ administered by or delivered by a licensed psychologist, because that is an IQ score the state will accept. Now, once you apply for the waiver, it's very important you understand that several states have different wait lists for the waiver. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, have I not waited long enough? Have I not waited long enough? You are correct. Keep watching this video. You are correct. If that is your general sentiment, we are exactly on the same page, which is why we're making these videos, to help you skip the line. Can I conduct IQ testing for your child through a YouTube video? No. But you need to understand that in that interaction with your provider after the diagnosis has been made, if there's an intellectual disability waiver in your state, a referral to a psychologist needs to be made. It needs to be made. It doesn't need to be made by a subspecialist like myself. It can be made by your pediatrician. It can be made by your pediatrician or your family practice doctor while you're waiting on a list to be seen by me, because I also have a wait list, or people like me do. So you can get ahead by understanding that this is going to be something necessary for your child, and ask for that referral to be generated ahead of time. I'm happy to make that referral, but there's gonna be some time loss. If that referral can already have been made and you're already eating through the wait list, waiting for an IQ test, by the time I see you, that's one less referral I have to make, and it's one more service or intervention that you're closer to. You don't just do IQ testing to get an ID waiver. You also need to fill out paperwork, and this paperwork is every bit as terrible as you think. It's okay, it's not that terrible, but it's essentially like you're applying for Medicaid in your state, so there's gonna be papers that you're gonna need to work through. Oftentimes I have our social work team work through that with you. Your primary care provider likely also has access to social workers who can help you make sure you fill out the right paperwork and submit it to the right places so that you secure your place in line. Think about this part of our story, think about it like this, okay? Think about it like this. You're in line for a movie, okay? You and I are in line for a movie, and you know, I realize after talking for a while that I don't have my wallet. I don't have my wallet, and you're thinking, this is the worst, this guy's the worst guy. He is the worst you've got. YouTube sensations are terrible. That's what you're gonna say to yourself, okay? Just be nice. But I'm gonna say to you, look, hold my spot in line. I'm gonna go to my car, and if it's not there, I'm gonna go to my apartment or to Chipotle where I probably left it in the bathroom, and then I'm gonna bring it back. But the good news is no time lost because you kept your place in line. By the time you get close to the ticket counter, you're like, oh my goodness, is he coming back? And then you see me pulling in my 2011 Toyota Tacoma with 180,000 miles on it, and I'm rocking in, listening to the AC/DC, and you're like, oh my goodness, Noble, thank you, get over here now. And I run up, and just as the last minute comes, we pay and we go in because we never lost our spot in line. What do I mean? Get the IQ test, yes, but more importantly, apply for the waiver service. Get your spot in line. When you get to the window and your waiver spot opens up, they're gonna wanna see that IQ testing, okay? So if you don't get the IQ testing until right before you go in, or if you don't get that IQ testing until close to when you're about to get to the ticket counter, that's okay. But don't get the IQ testing so early at the very beginning of the line that you're entering that by the time you get to the ticket counter, it's expired. It's 2 years old. It's 1 year old, it's 8 years old. I don't know however long your wait lists are in your state, but you have to be sensitive. It's a game and you have to play it. Know the wait lists, get your spot in line by applying for the waiver services, and then make sure that as you're waiting, at some point when you can kind of see the ticket counter, get the IQ test, so that when you show up, you can give them all the information and you can get your waiver spot. That is the strategy for the intellectual disability waiver. But wait, there's more. There are lots of waivers. It's not just the intellectual disability waiver, there's a bunch of other waivers, okay? There's the health and disability waiver. These are just in the state of Iowa, but in your state, there's gonna be several different waivers. There's gonna be the intellectual disability or the developmental delay waiver. There's gonna be the health and disability waiver, which think about more low frequency, high intensity disabilities. So think about things like cerebral palsy, like wheelchairs, spina bifida, lots of needs for equipment, home ventilators, lifts for vans, lifts for homes, that kind of stuff. That's more the health and disability waiver. There's also an autism waiver. Okay, Iowa, the state I'm in, does not have one, and I think there's only like 8 states that do. Okay, if your state has an autism waiver, great. Fantastic, but you still gotta look at all your other options because your child may qualify for the intellectual disability waiver. Your child may qualify for the health and disability waiver. Your child may qualify for the autism waiver. So you gotta find the little graphs that line up the features and benefits of each one of these things, and you've got to decide which waiver is gonna serve your family best. You may apply for all of them simultaneously and then decide at the end which one you want. You can always make a long rope shorter. But please remember the necessity of waiver services. So, in summary, you've got to look at your state's waiver service program. Usually it's housed in the Department of Human Services, but again, it might vary depending on the state that you're in. Understand the features and benefits of the waivers that are available. Understand that some waivers will require certain evaluations like an IQ test. If you know the intellectual disability waiver is what you want, get your place in line by filling out the application. Same with all the other waivers. Get your place in line because waiver services can be years with an S. I know how that sounds, it's terrible. The waiver people should make videos to help you skip the line, but they're not here, it's just me in my basement. So it's just me, and I'm telling you to get on a waiver wait list now, okay? okay? Do it before you see somebody like me. Do it right away. Even if you think there's a possibility of an autism diagnosis, think about submitting paperwork for a waiver service. Think about asking for a referral to a psychologist for IQ or cognitive testing. Thank you for watching this video. You've got millions of videos to choose from. You chose to watch this one, and I thank you for it. Next month is Autism Awareness Month, and every video I put out in the month of April is going to be geared towards autism. I'm kicking around some ideas, one of which is some interviews with subspecialty providers and really niche providers who are experts in their field to answer some common questions. I'm also thinking about doing that in the context of live streams, where I'm just seeing your little names and numbers come up and I'm trying to answer your questions, whether it's just with me or with a group of people. I want to be more available to you because this is not about me. This is about you. I'm making these videos for you to educate, equip, and encourage. I want to give you the tools necessary to skip the line. You can do this, but we've got to stick together. Check out my other videos. More to come soon.